going to switch this. Go. What's the number after Brandon? Yeah, it's going to bump it, because now that there's more distractions going on, he's a little bit more stimulated. Yep, 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 yep. So I can see the contraction. There we go. What you bump it to? 23. All right.
That was about 2 here.
Yes, this is better than it was.
Yeah, it's
It went
more.
from, it was like decent, and then it just dropped.
I saw that.
And then I was like, then it started raining a little bit. So, how's the healing stuff been going?
Good.
You good?
I think like today, like, and yesterday, we really started to click.
Finally, to get, yeah.
Yeah.
It takes them getting comfortable, because in the beginning, it's so much rules,
Right.
that they're not wanting to like make mistakes because they don't want to get promoted.
Right.
So, all that's normal. So we're gonna start the recall today,
Okay.
or what's known as come unfold. So we're gonna layer the foundation, and then, because I know there was like eating tennis balls and stuff and all that.
Yes. Anything we can get here.
So, during this phase, now recall does take people 10 to the longest, because it requires you to go somewhere to practice.
Right.
So like, you guys are near the lakefront, right? So you can park with that.
I was thinking today, because we walked along, or like, in the morning.
Uh-huh.
Give me a good place to go, like, open.
Yeah, so it's convenient for you, so that's nice. So typically, healing's the fastest thing that people teach, because you walk your dog multiple times a day, right? With the recall, it usually takes people the longest, because they have to go somewhere to practice with your dog. So when you're doing your recall in the beginning, we always have the long leash, because we want to be able to make him return and not worry about the risk of, are we going to send Gus away from us, okay? I switched your leash up, yeah.
Oh, I was like.
Yeah, I took that one, because here there's a lot of dog fur and it'll get all dusty and stuff, so. So a dog's first instinct typically with e-collar is to run away.
Right.
Okay, so we use the long leash, so in case he gets confused or trying to run off, we're not worried. We can make him come back because we have that physical tether to him, okay? So let me see your long leash here.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
There we go, yeah, so we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you. Okay, this is very coordination heavy, okay? So, everything else after this is pretty easy, okay? So you hold your remote in your right hand?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. So what I would do is you're going to have your leash in your right hand with your remote, okay?
The long leash.
Yeah, the handle here.
Okay.
It's going to be like this, okay? And then what we do is I drape the leash over my left hand. So when Gus is moving towards you, you can just throw it on the ground like this, okay? So, hold on for now, because that's what I'm going to be holding. So this is what you're going to be doing, okay? You're going to be, you're going to have a long leash over your thumb, you have your e-collar or your remote, and then with these fingers, you're pulling, yeah, just like that, okay? Now, once you're done feeding it through, you're going to take your leash and go like this to this. Okay, tray with your short leash there. So put over your right thumb, right? And then, so you have your fingers on your remote. Now these fingers, right, are going to be used doing this, okay? And then like that, okay? So, like for instance, the puppy we just trained earlier, it was the first class, and I think she had held it like this, okay? Is if he starts to run off, he's going to get rope burn, right? So then if that happens, if you forget to do that, just let your leash go, that's why we do this, okay? Because he can't pop that out of your hand, okay? This one, on your right hand, you're already doing it. So you see like this, right? So this here on your thumb blocks your leash, okay? So if you're holding like this, and he's running away, you can let this go, because it's here.
But then what about the remote?
What do you mean?
Because this is not here, right?
Correct, yeah. So, but what you're doing is, so go ahead and actually take the remote out. take the remote out of your hand? Yeah, so that's how it should be, right? But then your remote's gonna be over that, so now we're gonna grip the remote like that, right? So what you're doing is, if Gus, should he take off, this is still locked to your hand, okay? Because if you try to hold this, it's gonna suck, okay? So that's why we do this here, because then, if you try to pull, that should lock your leash. Okay? So, but in case if you took off and you weren't ready, I would let this go because I know I have it over here. Does that make sense? Like this is your backup, just in case, because you don't want to get rope burn, okay? So, he's coming towards us, I'm just moving, and I'm throwing this on the ground. So at this way, when Gus comes to you, if he makes the mistake and keeps going, he's not going to get that much further because you shortened it. Okay, but if you leave it completely loose, all over the place. Okay, so we do that to help make things a bit easier. Now, what you're going to be doing in the beginning is, if you look at Gus's collar here, right there, can you see where there's like tension on his martingale? Pulling right there, right? What we're going to do in the beginning is we're going to time that tension with the e-collar to direct them to come towards you. Okay? So what you would do is you'd be like here, okay? You would start to pull and then tapping. And then as Gus moves towards you, you would move backwards and then reel in your leash. Okay? I'm going to coach you through it. It's a lot of stuff. People always mess up because there's so much stuff to think about. The main thing I want you to focus on in the beginning is just putting that tension, the tapping, and then once Gus starts to move towards you, you're going to just reel in the leash, and then stop once you feel like he's going to walk to you, okay? I'm going to coach you through it. Once you start doing it, it gets a lot easier. Yeah, and the reason for the short leash is so that, because sometimes dogs get savvy to the exercise, and the previous really starts running to you, okay?
So what should I be on right now?
You're at 25?
I'm at 20.
That's fine.
Okay.
So go ahead and start shortening a little bit so you have that tension. Okay? Now tap, 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 pull. Now back. Now reel in your leash. Back, tap, tap, back. Right there. Now whip.
Sorry, that was a lot. Okay.
Now praise. I know, there's a lot of stuff to think about. Okay, and break.
Okay.
As you do it more, you're more good.
You're asking me now? Okay, so I go over here. Oops. Okay. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Corey? Okay, hold. Good there. Good, praise.
Good boy. Good buddy. He's getting all tangled up.
Yeah, I know, this is a very messy command.
Good job, buddy.
Good. Hand break.
Okay. All right.
Now, when you do your steps backwards, I'm going to have you do more pronounced. Would you like water?
Oh.
You have water? Yeah. You got another one? More pronounced, yeah, bigger steps.
Okay.
Okay. And let me untangle him here. Okay. And a little bit of leash tension. And tap, 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 tap. Good. Big steps. 1, 2, 3. Now reel in the leash. Now tap, tap, tap backwards. 1, 2, that's good.
Good job, buddy.
Good.
Good job. Oh, God.
Good. And break.
Break.
Good.
Good job.
And then place your water right there.
Oh, great. So you're doing good. There, put some. I don't know why is these masks like dehydrated?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I wear them like 10 hours at work.
What do you do?
I'm a physical therapist.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Oh, horrible. Okay. So maybe it's on the back foot.
There.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And tap, 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 tap. Keep holding now back. 1, 2, 3, that's good.
oh, now what are you?
Now turn to face him. Back, tap, 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 tap. Good, hold right there. And praise.
Good job, buddy.
So you're always facing Gus, but moving away from him. Okay? Let's go to bump it. You're at 25 or 20?
I'm at 19, so I'll go back down to 19.
Let's go to 25.
Okay.
Great. Repeat that a couple more times. Sorry. Sorry about that. Why is he getting white hairs already?
I don't know, those appeared too. He's like aging. He's growing gray, guys. You must be stressed. You don't live a very hard life, so I don't know what you're stressed about.
Looks like he's got white around the eyes too. He's probably just the tricolor from the Bernese. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh,
Tap, 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 tap. Good. Hold right there.
oh.
Quick hit.
Good boy.
And praise.
Good
Atta
boy.
boy.
What was watering? Okay. No, you want to play. Oh. Okay, go. Put your paw there. There you go. All right, so.
Tap, tap, tap. Good. 1, 2, 3. That's good. Wait right there. So, hey, turn to face him. Now
Okay.
back. Tap, tap, tap. Yep, keep going. Tap, tap. Right there.
Good job,
Great.
buddy. Good job.
Good. So here, we want Gus to always come all the way.
Okay, now beyond.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, like sometimes the dog will land like right here, and the owner will come and go, good dog, you know, good boy, whatever. And I'll tell them what ends up happening is they accept this, and then the dog ends up like drifting, and then they take off again. Okay, when you make them come all the way towards you, less likely to prematurely leave. So like a lot of people go to the park, they call their dog comes back, and they run right back to playing to the dog, so that's great. And I want him to stay after I give him that recall. And so making them come to us all the way helps start that process right after that. Okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the same thing. That's hard. But now we're going to add auto sits. Okay?
Okay.
So like the heel, right?
Right.
Heel, stop, you put that butt down. Same thing for the recall. So now the next ones, once you get him to come to you, we're not going to say anything. We're just going to use that upwards tension and the tap to get him to put his butt down.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Great. He's already started. So he's already started walking towards you. Good. And tap. Tap. Good. Tap. Wait right there. Now wait a moment. And tap. And relax. And praise.
Good job, buddy. Good job. Good job. At least you're smiling today.
And break.
Break.
Because he thinks he's going to play afterwards.
Sucker, you're not.
Sucker. Can't worry, bud.
You already played this morning.
I see him sometime on Wallace's thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I know Wallace had a ball last weekend, huh, buddy?
Wasn't it his birthday or something?
Oh, yeah, it's Wallace's first birthday, except Gus is not allowed to have any of that kind of food because he has such a sensitive stomach.
Oh, really?
He is like the worst with food. Like anything upsets his stomach. And we're like,
Uh-oh.
yeah. All right.
Okay. Good. Now back. 1, 2, 3. Wait right there.
Sir.
Good. Yeah. Up. Yeah. Good. And praise.
Good boy. You want to play with me? Good boy.
Here, really 3 more times.
Okay. Yeah, we just had a hard time with him. We had to switch his food and everything. I think he's allergic to chicken. So.
Well,
I know, I saw that you were a nutritionist.
Yeah, that's her right there.
I was like, I might have to talk to her. My dog is the worst. Gus is? Such a sensitive stomach. Oh, yeah. I think that's a doodle thing.
We have like 3 doodles right now, so.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Forgot about that.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's like the only one in his litter. It's so annoying.
Yeah, yeah, right back, good. Hold right there. Now turn face them back, back, and yep, back, back. There you go. Hold right there.
Oh.
Back some more. Back, yep, keep shortening. There you go. Hold right there. That's okay. And yeah, good and praise. So, yeah, so if he gets tangled up like that, I walk him through it. Correct. Yeah, exactly. You're trying to make it as realistic as possible. As long as it doesn't look like it's terribly wrapped around his leg. Because I did have someone, like her dog was playing with the other dog, and wrapped around her leg and broke the dog's leg. Yeah. So do be mindful of that.
Okay.
But like, you know, it's just wrapped around his hindquarters. There was nothing going on there.
Okay.
I can do 2 more.
Great.
Right, this way. Yeah, hold it. Good. Good. Right there. Back, back. Back. Good. Hold right there. Turn your face up. There you go. Yeah. And then now, step up. There it is. Good.
Good job, buddy.
Good. And break.
Break.
Break. Wait. Break, break, break. There we go. Yep. Yep. Good. Hold right there. Now here, stand there. Just tap. There it is. Great.
Good job. Good job, buddy. Good job.
Good. And break.
You're so smart. Break.
Good. So what we're going to do here is we're going to flip it. So before you were pulling and tapping, now you're going to tap and then pull.
Tap
Okay.
and then pull.
Yeah. So you're going to tap about 2 to 3 times. Okay. We're going to see if Gus responds to just the tapping.
Okay.
Going to come forward a little bit, give yourself some space. And then if he doesn't respond by that second or third tap, then you'll start to put in the leash pressure. Okay.
Okay, there's no bit.
Not yet. We're going to add it in a little bit later.
Okay.
Okay.
And now it's tap.
Correct. Tap, tap, tap. Now back, really release. Good. Now turn face back, tap, good move. Tap, back, hold right there. Now wait here and raise.
Good job. Good
Good. And break.
Break.
This way. This way.
Oh, he's already ready.
I know. That's why we do the second leash, because they pick up on the pattern pretty quick. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Back. Yep. And back, tap, remove. Hold right there. And praise.
Good job. Good job. Oh, your fur. I don't know if the fur's coming from you or some other dog.
Yeah, it's
You don't
from,
really shed.
from the leash here, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because we sweep and sweep and sweep, but then the fur just
Yeah.
relax. That's why I swapped your leash out, since yours would walk faster.
Yeah.
It'd be all covered with the fur.
That's all right. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Good. Back. Good. Hold right there. Wait a moment. Back.
Good job, buddy. Good job. Good job.
Good. We'll do 2 more. Break.
Break.
Break, break. You ready?
Oh, tail.
All right. Tangled up. Take it tangled up. Feel it.
Sitting on it. Good job, buddy. Good job.
Great. One more. Yeah, there you go. Good. And praise.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
So that's really good. So he actually progressed pretty quick, because typically dogs with the tapping will still need some level of attention, and he's actually responding to just the remoting itself. So that's really good.
Good boy.
So what we're doing here is we're trying to build this to a more realistic sense.
Right.
This is not realistic,
No.
okay? But we have to layer in the foundation somehow. So that's why I like working with two handlers. So here we started with leash tension because his instinct is going to be to want to move away, if anything. So we use that leash pressure to direct, like, don't run away from the remote, you need to run to me, right?
Okay.
The reason for that movement back, this is super important, is typically when people call their dogs, like at the dog park, they'll like call them, and the dog will look at them, but they're standing still. So the dog will look, but then go back to what they're doing, right? And then you'll say, like, when I try to leave the park and I'm walking, my dog's scared I'm gonna leave them,
So that they come.
right? But I'm like, the dog's not doesn't know that you're gonna leave them, but they're moving now, and that's what attracts your dog's attention. Okay, so we use that moving backwards to draw Gus to you,
Okay.
because he needs some kind of visual to attach to.
Okay.
Okay, and that's forever. Okay, so that means in 3 years, when you call him, you would still do this.
Okay.
Okay, so this never stops. But you just do the first 3 steps, and that's just to let them know that you need to come to me. Okay? So if you're out in the park, and there's a lot of distractions, let's say Gus can't hear you, and you remote him, his instinct should be when he feels the remote to look for you. So then when he sees you and you're doing this,
He knows to come.
he knows to come to you exactly. The other thing is it differentiates you from the environment. Right? There's a lot of stuff going on,
Right.
but you're the only thing moving backwards.
Okay.
Okay? So that gives that's like the visual cue of, hey, you need to return to me in case he can't hear you. Okay?
Right.
So this is a forever thing. Every time you call him, you always be like, Gus, come, and do at least 2 to 3 steps backwards to cue to him to return to you.
Okay.
Okay?
So this isn't something I can do without somebody else. Like I could.
No, you can.
Okay.
Right? So we have 2 ways of practicing. Let's say you want to practice. So you take Gus, you take your long leash with you, you walk to the park, you switch leashes, Gus break, right? And then you hold the end of the handle, like I showed you, and you just walk with Gus, and just let him do his doggy thing, and use what you have available to you. So, like, let's say there's a tree with squirrels. Does he like squirrels?
Yes.
Okay, use that. Okay. Does he like squirrels a lot?
Yeah, he likes squirrels and geese. And we practiced with the geese today doing the heel, and it was good.
Good. So use that to your advantage. Okay. So if I have dogs with good prey drive, I love it because it gives me very controlled context to work with. So if there's a tree, a squirrel in a tree, Gus break, right? And I'll even antagonize it with that, right? And get him really excited. He's jumping up at the tree, and I sneak away, right? And he's just sitting there barking, lunging at the tree, jumping. And I might give him a couple of minutes to do that. And then a couple of minutes in, Gus coming. Okay? So a lot of people will let the dog go, and then right away call him. And I go, if you do that, you're going to create a pattern. The dog's going to learn every time I go to chase a squirrel, you call me within a second. So then the dog ends up turning around prematurely to you. And we want him to not pick up on a pattern. You know, like you're calling him when he's deeply distracted, but he's still just disengaging and moving forward. Okay, so I might do it like 2 minutes in, maybe 5 minutes in, which is like letting him be bonkers.
Yeah.
Because when you're going to need your recall to be functional, he's going to be doing something.
Right.
He's going to be playing with dogs. He's going to be playing chase. He's going to be circling around and running around and all that stuff. So I like to recreate that as much as possible, and using squirrels and geese is really a really good idea.
Yeah, this guy likes it.
So I had a client, he lived by the river, and in front of, there was his home, there was a street, and then there was this huge, like, lot of living. And every morning, there would be geese there, okay? So there'd be a flock of geese just walking around, and he took his dog on a 100-foot leash. And he would just go and let his dog go to the geese, and sometimes he would call them in the middle. Sometimes he'd call them right when he got there. Sometimes he'd call them when he was in the middle of them.
Feel very.
So he had the perfect, because his dog really loved chasing geese. That was the perfect context for him. And he did that for like 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, he had a perfect recall because he had the, how would you say, not only realistic, but very like applicable scenario right in front of him. Okay? So, using what you have. Now, when you practice solo, you want to be careful not to drill it out too much. Okay? Because if you go, let's say you go to practice for like 30 minutes and you call him 20 times every time, he's not going to want to leave you. Because he's going to think you're just going to call me a bunch of times, so there's no point in, like, you know, trying to have fun and chase things or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like that's like what happens with a walk sometimes. If you heal too much, you have to wait for stuff. Is that bad?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So if you're trying to get a balance of a loose walk with the heel, and you give him the break, and I just like, I'll like purposely put the dog on the wrong side.
Well, I put him on the right, and then he gets it.
Oh, sure, you swap, yeah, and then he knows he's loose. Yeah, so like doing that, so that he's like, oh, okay, cool, like I'm off the clock.
Yeah.
But same thing with the recall, if you drill it too much, he's not gonna wanna leave you. So you're trying to balance like the training to build reliability, but at the same time, the comfort of like, no, you can play, you just need to return when we call you.
Okay.
Okay? So, if let's say you go later today to practice at the park and you're gonna be there for 15 minutes, I might just give Gus the entire 15 minutes to be free, and I'm just holding in the leash. And at the end of the 15 minutes, Gus he comes to you, good boy, we swap our leash with the short leash on, we heel back home.
Okay.
So I only call him once, but the next time you can call him 3 times,
Okay.
1 time, 5 times, 2 times, you're just randomizing. Now, if you're working with someone else, like we are here, this you can keep drilling out because we can force the disconnect. Because I can grab the leash and then walk away with him. That's why we do the 2 leashes at this stage. Okay? So, this is good for teaching just like the foundation of things. Or if you go into an environment and there's like not much that's distracting him, you can use the other person to like walk away and stuff so that you can at least get something in. Okay? Now, when you do it with 2 people, doesn't matter how much you practice it because you have the second person to force him to move away. Okay? All right. You drill me, buddy? Great. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start naming the word come.
Okay.
Now, I typically do the dog name, then the word come, so like Gus come. And then everything that he's been doing would then turn into effect, right?
Okay.
So it'd be Gus come, tap, and tapping, and then moving backwards, okay?
Okay.
Now, if you call Gus and he starts to run towards you before you can press the button, still press it at least once.
So if I say that's how many starts going toward the end, still press.
Correct. At least once. Now there's an echo now. I just realized. We just put a wall up right there. There used to be a hole, so there wasn't an echo before.
Oh.
Yeah. So at least tap once after you call everything tap.
Okay.
You ready?
Gus, come.
Yeah. Good. Good. Yes, and praise.
Good boy. Good boy, buddy.
Yeah. Break.
Break. Gus, come.
Yeah. Good. Right, good.
Good boy. You're so strong. Break.
See how you're trying to go towards you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gus, come.
Yeah. Good. Very good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep,
Good
that's fine.
job.
At least, as long as it's within a 2 to 3 foot radius, that's real good. And it doesn't matter what side he lands on, because sometimes the dogs will favor break the left side because of the heel,
Okay, yeah,
but it's not necessary.
okay. Gus, come.
Yeah. Good. Good one.
Good boy. Good boy, buddy. Good boy.
And one more.
Okay, break.
Perfect.
So what, is this like plays for those dogs? Is it just like a play group?
Yeah, we do smaller flavors.
Ah, they're so quiet.
Yeah, I don't pay for it.
Oh, well, this guy. That's good.
I think larger play, which is fine, but like we have in kennel.
Well, they know that word. That's nice.
Yeah, so like if they're playing, they're fine to bark, but not in kennels and stuff, we correct that stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Gus, come.
Yep. Yep. Good. Yeah, boy.
Good job,
Very good.
buddy. Good job. You're so smart. Good job. Okay.
Good. So
Break.
he's doing really well with this. Like he's keeping his looseness. He's not getting like paranoid and stuff, which is great. What are you doing? No.
He just is the flopper. All right, guys. You're just a flopper.
Good. So here, you think, yeah. So he's doing really well because see how he like just walks away with me.
Yeah.
A lot of times by now, the dog would already be like trying to pull back to the owner. So he's nice and relaxed, which is good because it'll make this easier for you to practice by yourself.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest problem that people have, is that when they try to practice by themselves, the dog's too, cautious that they don't want to leave the owner's side.
Okay.
So this is all really good. Do you have any questions so far about the recall?
No, not really. So for this whole week, it'll be with the leash. We're not doing the house.
Yeah. So this is a process.
Okay.
And then I'll give you all the steps to it. So the reason why we're doing the tapping every single time you call Gus is if I'm Gus, right? And let's say you call me and you turn and then you tap after he's coming to you, what do you think might happen?
Say that one more time. If I call him and then he turns and then I tap him, then he's not associating with the command, right?
Not that. Good guess. So
He might run?
yes, you might confuse him because he's thinking he did something and then you tapped him afterwards. Okay, so then he thinks, oh, maybe this is incorrect.
Okay.
And he starts to go off the opposite way.
So it's always Gus comes right.
Yes, okay. Now, you're going to have delayed taps. It's going to happen. And that's why right now, I was saying every time you call Gus, always tap, even if he's coming to you, is because we're trying to force that mistake. We're trying to force, I'm at some point going to screw up and I'm going to tap too late so that we get the confusion. And then if that happens, you just keep tapping and moving backwards to draw him back to you again. Okay. To help him clarify that whenever you feel that the tap never needs to run away. If anything, it needs to run faster.
Okay.
To me. Okay. So, and that's something that a lot of people forget to do because the dog will start doing great with the recall.
Then stop tapping.
Exactly.
So is that for everything?
No, just the recall.
Okay.
So like the heel, if you said heel and he started walking with you, we don't do anything, right? I do it with the recall because once he's fully off leash, you can't have it, right? If he's fully off leash and you're like, Gus, come and you tap him, you don't want him to go the other way.
Right.
So we're doing that now.
Okay.
We're getting all this out the way while we have him on the long leash, because with the long leash, you can force him to return because you can give him direction. Okay?
So in a situation, if he's like going after something, and I say Gus come tap, he doesn't come, do I tap again?
You would keep tapping.
And then is there like a limit to the point I tap where it's like starts to cool?
Oh, I would say within 2 to 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, let's say
3 strikes, you're out, and then I start pulling.
you
and
start putting some
tapping.
tension. You can also bump your number,
Okay.
right? Because that could be another factor. Like if he's chasing after like a squirrel, and you go Gus coming, you're on 25, he might blow to that 25 because it's not enough power.
Okay.
So now you jump into 35,
Okay.
and then 40, like,
So, with that, I think do I only do a command once?
correct.
So Gus comes, tap, and he doesn't come tap, and he doesn't come tap,
Mhm.
and then I start to pull and tap.
Yeah, and then bump it too.
Okay, okay.
Because like, let's say he's chasing a squirrel and you're pulling him, but you're literally dragging him as you tap him, it means the remote's doing nothing, right? And we want Gus to just turn around and start coming to you immediately. So then it's just finding what's the number that he's gonna need in order to disengage from a squirrel.
Okay.
Okay, so like it would be Gus come on, say 25, Gus come, tap, tap, tap. Then I would bump it, tap, tap.
Okay. 3 taps and then bump it.
That's usually my general rule. Is I'll do, command, tap, 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 bump, tap, 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 bump, tap, tap, tap. And because you have the leash in your hand and then you have the remote in the other, right?
So when do you start pulling then?
So you can do, like, depending on how coordinated you are, when you're tapping after the third tap and you're bumping, you can start pulling at the same time, right?
Okay.
Or if you just keep walking backwards and you're tapping and bumping it, because you're moving backwards, at some point you're going to pull.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So then once he starts running towards you, you can start throwing that leash.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So it would be
I'm just assuming he's at the end of the leash now, when he's at, when you're calling.
correct. Yeah. So what I do
There
is,
is that tension already.
yeah, I'm already at the end of it, so I'm
Okay.
tapping and bumping, so I can focus on that first. If you can't do the both, then once you see him trying to move towards you, then you're reeling in that leash. Okay. Other questions?
No.
So recall, tapping, always calling, tap, forcing the confusion, bumping the number. Yeah, so at this stage, it's always on the leash. Like, let's say he goes to play with, the dogs.
And the dog comes.
Yeah, so what do you do now to get him out of this?
It's miserable. That's why I didn't show that much before. What do we do? I step on his leash. I put his leash on a ring.
Oh, sure.
Dog.
Sure.
So I get close to him and step on his leash. And that's leave.
Okay.
He used to be really good, and when we walk away, he'd come. Now he does nothing.
Whatever. Okay.
Whatever.
So what I would do, because we need repeated conditioning, right? Is like maybe set something up with Flawless or one of the other dogs.
Okay.
And say like, hey, like, can you help me with Gus?
All right.
And then it's just Gus and Wallace, right? And Gus is on the long leash. And you let them play. And then when you're ready, now when you go to step to the leash, you don't have to be here.
Right.
Because you have a 30-foot line, right? Is that once you're ready, go to pick up the end of the leash, wait a moment, Gus come, boom, and call
So I
him.
can let this go and then pick it up. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's easier for you to catch him, to practice that recall. And then you have to build up to what's more realistic, which is Gus will be playing with like 8 dogs, right? However many are there.
Right.
So like when I was talking to Brian and Bree about it, they were saying that like his loss recall was really good until the dogs would chase him,
Oh, yeah.
and that he had a hard time with that. So then I was like, well, then you have to either keep practicing outside of the context, and then I would practice at a higher number. And then, so that's why when you go back into the context of 8 dogs, when you remote him at a higher number, he's going to just want to shoot out of it. Okay? So you have to build to what you're needing. It doesn't just go from this to that.
Okay.
Okay?
So I should be going to play group right now with like 20 dogs.
You can, but I wouldn't do recall. Right? So what I would do is, like, if you did that, is you let Gus play, and then do what you would normally do and step on the leash, the short leash. Okay? Because what I don't want you to do is call Gus when he's playing, and we're not at the point where you can make him do it. And then he learns, like, oh, sometimes I can come to you, sometimes I have to come to you, sometimes I don't.
Okay.
Then he'll learn that behavior, and then he becomes a gambler. So dogs are all about consistency. So if every time you call Gus, you always make him return, that's what he's thinking. Okay? But a lot of people will give their dog a command, and they can't reinforce it, so then the dog learns, like, oh, if you call me, I don't always have to, or if you tell me to do something, I don't always have
So
to
you're
do
just
it.
saying with like a bigger group, like it's going to be harder for you to pull now.
Yeah, because there's going to be more dogs, they're going to get tangled up, right?
And there's not going to be consistency in that sense, and so they're
Correct.
really pulling attention to command. So you basically, it'll be inconsistent then.
Yes. That's why I was like, you know, you can set something up with Wallace or, you know, one of the other dogs, or it's
Okay.
just Gus and that one dog. Because that's easier, because I'm not worried about them getting tangled up.
Right.
But him with like 8 other dogs with the long leash is gonna get bad.
Right.
Okay? So then you build him up to that point of it doesn't matter what he's doing, he's gonna return to you.
Okay.
Because it takes time, it takes repetition, and then you have to build to the degree that you're needing, which is he's going to be super distracted by like a bunch of other dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
But that's why like if I have a dog that's really crazy prey drive, I'm like use that to your advantage because that's like their pinnacle, you know, difficulty.
Right.
And I'm like, if we get the dog to retreat off of that or return off of that, it makes everything else a lot easier.
Okay.
Other questions?
I don't think so. I think that's good.
All right, so what we're gonna do here, since he's doing really well, is we can turn this two-person negative, this two-person exercise, and make it a little bit more realistic. So here, here,
Right.
I was being stationary, right? When you were calling him. So we can make it a little bit more realistic by doing the recall as the person is walking with us.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna walk with him.
Okay.
Once he's at halfway through, you're gonna issue that recall,
Okay.
and then everything stays the same except now he's gonna actively be moving.
Okay.
Okay?
Halfway.
There.
Gus, go.
Yeah. There you go. Good. Yeah. Good, and praise.
Good job, buddy.
Good. So you see how you got confused there?
Yeah.
He was thinking heel, right?
Right.
So here, that's all normal. That's why I didn't say anything with him. I didn't say heel because that's going to confuse him even more.
Right.
I just started to walk with him. But he just assumed heel because he was walking with someone.
Right.
Okay?
Okay, break.
Break. Do it again. This way.
Gus, come.
Yeah. There you go. And back. Good. Hold right there. Turn the face back. Yeah. Good. Hold right there. Yeah.
Good
And
boy.
right.
Good boy. That was confusing. Good job. Good job.
Good. That's one more time. Yeah, 40. Break.
Gus, come.
Yep. Yeah. Watch the wall. Good. And break.
Good boy, buddy. Good boy.
Okay, we're doing a couple more.
Oh.
I like that one because he actually turned when he heard Gus.
So now he's gonna break.
Break. And we'll come a little bit more this way. Give yourself some room. Here.
Gus, come.
Yeah. Good. Hold right there. And boy.
Good boy, buddy. Good boy.
One. Break.
Break. Gus, come.
Good. Hold right there. Good boy.
Sir.
And praise.
Good boy.
Good.
Good boy.
So now, if you're working with the second person, right? Instead of doing just the standing part,
Now they'll walk away.
now you're walking,
So
right?
that'll be interesting for him because he gets really upset when Dan and I don't walk together.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Or
guys and stuff.
it'll be good for him because if we walk somewhere together and one of us like, for example, I'm going to work so I keep walking.
Yeah.
He just sits there and cries.
Oh, sure.
Well, not as bad anymore, but he used to.
Sure. And that you can actually correct it with the remote if he's on the
Yeah.
leash. It's just attachment stuff.
Right?
Um,
That's serious. I mean, he's okay with it. He gets it.
just needy.
He gets needy, yeah.
Think here. So the next step with the walking would be running, right?
Okay.
So then, like the other person, we want to get this down pat. So what we're looking
Oh, you mean
for,
the other person, like you be running?
correct,
Okay.
right? Now, so let's say what we're building towards is when the person's walking with Gus, when you call him, it's immediate.
Okay.
He just goes.
Okay.
Right now, he's still learning, right? He still kept trying to come to me or come into the heel. which is incorrect. So the moment you start seeing when they're walking with Gus, when you call him, just immediately leaves their side.
Right.
Now you can progress, and we get that reliably. Now you can progress towards the person running and doing the recall off of that.
Okay.
Because typically when people call their dogs, they're chasing something, running towards something they shouldn't, or running away,
Sure.
like running towards the street, right?
Right.
So we're trying to recreate realistic context as best we can. So this is a nice way to do it with two people. And you can just feel it out, okay? Now sometimes the dog will learn every time the person is like 20 feet away, you'll do the recall, and you'll see them just automatically walk
So
away.
you gotta let it vary in a little bit.
Yeah, so what you would do is as, let's say they're walking with Gus, you can walk behind as well, so that you're not using up your slack, right? And then once you're ready, you'll stop, and that still gives you some distance, so that you can vary when you actually put in that recall command.
Okay.
Okay. So the next thing is I'm going to show you how you can advance your heel a little bit more.
Okay.
So with this tool, you get up to off-leash control with all commands. It's just a matter of how much work do you want to put into it and how well trained you want your dog to be. Okay. So you have the leash in your right hand, correct?
I have to
Yeah.
look.
Yeah. So you're going to keep it like that. You're going to leave your leash completely slack.
Okay.
And I'm going to have you, you're going to say the word heel, and I'm going to have you move forward.
Do you want me to break him right now?
No, just say heel.
Okay. Heel.
Yep, tap, tap, keep forward, tap. Good. So now, keep going forward. Keep forward. We'll try to hit it. Good turn. Tap, forward, tap, tap, tap. Keep forward, tap. There he goes. Forward. There you go. Good.
Good shot. What are
Keep
you
forward.
upset about?
Now, pivot again. Good, forward, tap, tap. So what we're doing here is, the field, the command itself,
You can mix up?
everything's staying the same, going, keep going, and I'm having you try left, yeah. Try left turn here, posture right leg.
Right.
Right, left, right, there you go. Now go and slow, don't stop. Good, okay. So, he's on a 30-foot leash, right? And he's right here.
Right.
Because the way that we teach this heel command, we're using off-leash methods. So the only thing that changes is you go from a short leash to a long leash until you build to no leash.
Okay.
Okay? So let's say you go to the park, Gus break, he's running around, you know, let him be a dog for a bit. Let's come, add a boy, wait a moment, make sure he doesn't try to pick him for people. Because if, this is good to know, if you call from a distraction, I like to wait before releasing or giving a command to see, is he going to be tempted to go back and like chase a squirrel or something? Because once you call him, his job is to stay right here.
Right.
Okay, so if he's playing with dogs, if once you get him to that point and you call him and he's there, he cannot complain again until you say break. So you have to give him permission. So once you've called Gus, there's an implied stay, but it can stay with the human. Okay. So then once I say break, then you can go back to playing again, or I say heel.
Okay.
And then like, so you do a recall, you have your long leash, you say heel, and you can walk for like, a block or so using the long leash, because you're trying to recreate no leash. Because when you walk with him with the short leash, he sees it right here, right? It's a visual for him. Right, so what happens is when you remove the short leash, a lot of dogs don't know what to do because they no longer have that visual. So then I transfer to a long leash like this. And the reason why we want it in the right hand, going around you like a big U, is because if you put it in your left hand, you're going to have two lines. Yeah, exactly. It's going to get tangled up. So I like to keep it in my right hand, stretched out behind me, so it makes a nice big U, so that it keeps out of his legs. Okay. So then earlier, we started to nip at his shoulder there. It's because of the leash, short leash. The short leash was ripped over. Yeah. So I use it to my advantage. It's a distraction. You keep walking, you keep tapping, he's got to fix it.
Right.
So now what can happen with Gus is, if you're out in the park, he can get up to 30 feet away from you. Right? So if you're walking with them, if Gus passed you, you would still do that turn and then tap to correct him. But now he might go 30 feet away. Okay, so you should keep walking. A lot of people will stop. You don't want to stop. You keep walking. I'm not worried about where he's going to go because I have him on that leash. He can't run away. and you're teaching them how to fix the problem from a distance.
Okay.
Okay? Let's try it again. Heel.
Gus, heel.
Good. Keep forward. That's it, please. Going to try another left turn. Good. Going to pick up your feet a bit. Tap, tap. There we go. Good. Tap forward. Good. Now slow to pivot. Good. Keep forward. Pick up your pace. Tap, tap, tap. Good. Now slow to the left turn. Good turn. Yep. Going to pick up your pace. Tap, tap. Good. So I want to see every time you tap him, does he run straight to your left leg? And you're doing pretty good. Go ahead. Cross over again. Up. Tap. Tap. And keep moving. Tap. Now turn to your right, or I'm sorry, your left. Tap. There you go. Tap forward. This way. Tap. Tap. Keep forward. Tap. Good. Like that.
Good job, man.
Okay. So when you see him, that was good. When you see him tap, get lost. I want you to think, what do I need to do to get him back to my left side? Okay? So then at that point, don't worry about the technicality of things. Just think, well, what do I need to do to have Gus on my left side? It'll help him fix the issue faster. But during that whole time that he's away from you, you keep tapping because you're telling him, you got to figure this out. Tap, and good. Pivot. Good. And then slow to stop. Good. Is he's learning how to fix the heel position from afar. Okay. So here, don't be surprised if you're tapping, like let's say Gus passes you, right? What do we do when Gus passes us?
Turn.
Which way?
To your right.
Correct. And what else?
Keep walking.
And what else?
Back. Oh,
Yes.
turn.
Yeah. So you turn and tap, right? That's the same. So if I turn and I start tapping, you might see Gus actually run away. Right? And we do this to prove the command.
Okay.
So he's going, I don't know what to do here. I've never done this for 20 feet. And I go, figure it out. And I just keep walking. And eventually, tension is in the direction. Right? And then you run my leg good. If you stop tapping, I keep moving forward. Okay? So, as best you can, do not stop if he gets out of place. Keep your movement. Just keep your left side to him if possible. Okay? And work him through it. This is what's going to get you up to that level of control if you're wanting. But it also proves your obedience. Because he's learning running away is never an option. Okay? It's always perform the task that you were given if you want this to disappear. Okay, so we'll do a little bit more. Good.
Gus, heel.
It's weird in the beginning,
Right.
because since you don't have the short leash, and then people can't see their dog sometimes. Yep, go ahead and pivot. Good pivot. Tap forward. Pick up your speed. Tap. Tap. There he goes. Good. Then slow to a left turn. Good. Go ahead and pick up. Tap. Tap. Right. Good. And he's like parked up and you're around your left leg. That's good. Go ahead and pivot again. Good pivot. Tap. Tap. Good. And then you're in a left turn. Good. Going to pick up pace. Good. Tap. Good. Left turn again. Good. You
You're
got
really
it.
testing me more than
Yeah. Go ahead and pick up your pace. Tap. Tap. Very good.
There you go, buddy.
Yep. Tap forward. Tap forward. Good. And then go into a pivot. Good pivot. Yep. Tap forward. Tap forward. And slow to stop. Very good.
Good job.
So he has 30 feet of slack. Because they're the entire
Right.
Okay. So your obedience only as good as the environment you practice it. So if you only practice with deputy, obviously this isn't realistic. But this is what he's capable of.
Right.
Okay. So since day one, when we're doing that back and forth stuff, we were building to this degree, even though you've not jumped to this. And then right away it just transfers. Right? Like he's not all over the place. Like he made one big mistake, which wasn't too bad, and he like kind of walked off. His biggest thing is a little bit of a lag, which is not uncommon. And so see how he stopped his right shoulder's right next to your left leg? Like that's perfect. Okay? So when you're building to off-leash reliability, Cooper, off-leash reliability, welcome to dog daycare.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Cooper. I thought that was the name of the dog.
No, it's really cool. So yeah, when you want the right shoulder to the left leg. Oh, so if we don't have a nice tight heel like this, right? At least within 6 inches, that would be perfect. It's not reliable. If the more gap a dog has, the more likely they are to like run away.
Yeah.
We need that tightness in order to know that we have that off-leash liability. The dog's not going anywhere. Okay. So you have a couple things to work on for this week.
Yes.
The main thing is the recall.
Okay.
His heel looks good. I can always tell like how much the dog has a concept of it, because once we go to long leash, if the owners haven't really drilled it or made it very strict, the dog's all over the place. Okay? But with you, he was real good. He was on the hip. The stuff that he did is what I would expect. So you have practice your recalls. You have the solo version, which is you walk to the park, come on a long leash, and you let him be free, get distracted, let him have some fun. Dogs come, attaboy, wait, break, go back to what you're doing. Be careful not to practice too much so he doesn't get paranoid. And then the two-person version, I would start with being stationary first, right, before doing the movement away. And then if you would like to add in and advance this, just when you practice with them, pop them in the heel from time to time. You know, and I think for Brian and Bree, they were, when I think they would get to a certain point, they would actually just practice the off-leash heel with Wallace. I think it was like walking home or walking to the park or something.
Yeah. I was thinking we could do it at night when there's not as many people on our sidewalk, so they don't get tangled up.
Sure, yeah.
Or something.
Or you can go in like the grassy area. You know, be mindful of the slack, right? Because if you're on the sidewalk and the street's right here, he has 30 feet that way, right? So then, So what I would do is go into the grass. So even if he goes 30 feet out, we're not worried where he's going to go. And then, and that's not, you don't have to, but if you would like to, you know, you can practice the long leash heel to build that to the next level.
Yeah, no, we'll practice that. That's good. Good thing to practice.
Question?
No, I think I got it. So we're basically, just to recap, we're going to practice coming when called. So I can do that with Dan walking away, and then calling him. And then once he gets better down, I can do it with Dan walking. And then I can call him, he should turn. And then I can also do it just in the park with him playing. Not too many dogs, maybe by himself, and then with Wallace. I just call him, and I vary it up. I don't do it like every 5 minutes. I can do it after.
Exactly.
Just variants.
Yes, just don't do it 100 times in one session, because then you won't want to keep it. I think that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the first half of it. This all looks good. His response was good. His looseness was good. He's still relaxed.
And then next week is?
This is there's a second part to this. So this is the first half. Yeah.
The first half, guys. So we're gonna do good. Yeah. All right, buddy. Good.